Tonight, the plan to introduce vaccine passports in Scotland by the end of this month. Only those who are double vaxxed will be allowed into nightclubs, concerts and large-scale events if Parliament supports the First Minister's.
Fragile and serious, we must stem the rise in cases.
Also making the headlines, the man tasked with saving the nationalised Ferguson Marine shipyards insists at £2,500 a day he is value for money. With some crops being left to rot in fields that are And in sport, Steve Clarke's Scotland gets set to face Denmark in their World Cup. The STV News at 6 across Scotland. Good evening. If you want to go to a night The Scottish Government wants to introduce them amid growing concern over continuing high case numbers across the country.
But in coming weeks, you might need more than the entry. That's subject to debate.
Whole and reduce the risk of premises and events.
Under the proposals, a vaccine certificate.
And does she understand the very real concerns of those worried about the impact on civil liberties?
They couldn't have consulted with us before this. But we don't yet know, are we scanning these codes? Who's going to be? You know, it's all a bit backward, really, and I don't understand why we didn't go down the same route as the UK government did.
Around the idea of COVID passports for some while, but today's announcement came rather out of the blue for us. There are clearly a large number of unanswered questions. There may be some unintended consequences. We don't know how this technology is going to work. We don't know what exemptions there may be.
But public health countries.
So I think actually in some way it has been tried. Immune, or that they're going to get full of under 40s who are unvaccinated.
Today's serious action needs to be taken now.
About looking ahead to try and get things more under control for autumn and winter. But what it could get double vaccinated. Only about 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds have been to persuade them. But even then, it's not going to have an immediate impact either. It's not going to have any impact.
How concerned is the Scottish Government about the current high rates?
Well, the biggest concern at the government that show that more than 600 people are in hospital with COVID, suggested on much earlier than the
Scottish Parliament, thanks very much. So a sharp increase in cases and the prospect. Today, less than 2 weeks later, cases have almost doubled again to more than 6,000. Well, let's cross live to Scotland's National Clinical Director, Scottish Government's own grim projections about the pressure on the NHS. So is introducing
else. Vaccines, testing and following the rules. Vaccine passports is another layer vaccinated for us to help us with that.
OK, so it's a new layer, but we've got some big events coming up in the next couple of weeks which attract big crowds.
Have to show a test or a vaccine, so pretty much what we'll today with the Deputy First Minister, the organisers of Transmit, along with lots of other social for the public's help. All of this, a sunny day like today, is getting back to normal. Kids are back in school. Stay on that trajectory.
Universities go back soon. How concerned are you that
There'll be an uptick in cases when schools went back, and we're already coming back soon in their halls of residence. So all of that, kids in school, doesn't just already.
Indeed we do. All right, one last point, Professor Leach. Just as we were coming on air, we got news of the JCVI recommending a third fall into that category. Expect to get that.
Yeah, we're all of the elderly and the vulnerable to get boosters. The G. Thank you.
Now, the boss of the nationalised Ferguson shipyard in